Call to order the regular meeting of the City Council, May 6, 2014. City Attorney, was there any reportable action out of closed session?
There was no reportable action taken, Mayor.
Great, thank you. All right, I'm going to lead the invocation tonight. So before I start, at this time the City Council will convene to consider public matters. Those wishing to address the City Council must submit a request to speak form to the City Clerk prior to City Council action. Off to my left, your right, there's some request to speak forms over there, so feel free to fill those out. And I'm going to start off with the invocation tonight. God, we just thank you for this awesome opportunity to serve in our community. I thank you for the wonderful people that live in Lake Forest and the community spirit and the volunteer attitude that they have. Just ask that you guide us tonight, give us wisdom as we make the decisions that we do. Help us to make the right decisions and help us to be respectful of one another, be passionate about our opinions, but be respectful of one another and treat each other with kindness and courtesy. Amen. Tonight the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag will be led by Councilmember Bass.
Ready, begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
At this time, I'll entertain a motion for presentations.
So moved.
So moved.
Second.
There's been a motion and a second, and council members cast your votes. Motion passes unanimously. And just real quick, for those of you that haven't been here recently, we have a vote board up here, so you don't hear yays and nays or ayes and nays. You'll just see the votes. So the green column on the left is an aye vote. The red column on the right, I believe, is a no vote, and the middle column is a, am I right? Or is it yes, no, and abstain?
Yes.
So, okay, so the middle is abstain, and the far right is a no vote.
Agenda item 5, proclamation designating May 18th through the 24th, 2014 as National Public Works Week, submitted by Director of Public Works, City Engineer.
Well, I think we have a certificate for our city engineer. I noticed in the agenda item here, it says this year's theme is building for today and planning for tomorrow. That sounds like what our city's all about, and Mr. Wheeler does a fine job of making sure that happens. Not only is he our Director of Public Works, but he's also a resident here in town, so we're definitely appreciative of everything that he brings. So I will come down to you.
Agenda item 6, proclamation designating May 4th through the 10th, 2014 as Wildfire Awareness Week, submitted by the City Clerk.
Join you down there. I just want to say real briefly, I grew up in San Diego County, but very close to a regional park. It's very similar to what we have here in town, Whiting Ranch, and it's a natural beauty that we have, but it's something that we need to be very respectful of and recognize that nature can sometimes get out of hand when sometimes on its own. but definitely because of human contact, so we have to be really careful about that as much as possible. And again, respect that beauty, that natural beauty that we have, but appreciate everything the fire authority does here in town, and to keep us all safe. So, thank you very much.
Thank you very much. We appreciate you recognizing.
Absolutely. I think so.
Yeah, and agenda item 7 is proclamation designating May 26th through September 1st, 2014 as Drowning Prevention Awareness Season, submitted by City Clerk.
There we go again.
Absolutely.
Carl? It's me again. Deja vu.
Thank you. And, this just isn't a proclamation, something to do fun for pictures. I mean, we all enjoy that, but really what this is just supposed to be a time for all of us to really focus. This time from May through, I believe it's September, is a time where there's a lot of drownings, especially of infants and toddlers, but, people of all ages. Maybe some summer parties that get out of hand, and someone's a little inebriated, and so we just need to really be careful, especially with our children, but with each other, and just be on the lookout there and just be cognizant of it. So that's really what this proclamation is all about. And we love doing the pictures and that part of it as well, but it's really about just trying to be safe and helping our friends and neighbors and family. So thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Agenda item 8, proclamation designating May 4th through the 10th as Municipal Clerks Week, submitted by Deputy City Manager, Director of Management Services.
Accept this one too. Well, here in town we have a great city clerk's office, and so I think, I don't know if, I know you'll be accepting. I don't know if you want to introduce the staff or you want to bring them up. Okay.
With us, we have Assistant City Clerk Martha Halverson and Record Specialist Susan Entner. You could just join us up here.
And while they're coming up, if you've ever gone up to their office, and you would have had to have gone up, they've recently relocated downstairs, so they're right across the lobby here. So when you need to reach out to them, that's one good way. And also, last year we added passport services. That's being handled through the city clerk's office. So if you're taking a summer vacation abroad or something like that, they can be one of those avenues for you to get a passport. I believe, is it this Thursday night? This Thursday night, they're staying open until 9 o'clock. So they're really trying to help those summer travelers as much as possible. So they're going above and beyond and staying here late. So, if you do show up, maybe bring them a cookie or something. So. But we just want to present this to the city clerk's office. Thank you very much for your service. We really appreciate it. So, thank you. Here. And I'll proclaim that this week is also Proclamation Week. So, but that'll do it. There's only 4 of them. And at this time, we'll take the report from our student liaison.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. This is Jeff Dominic from El Toro High School reporting on May 6, 2014. Preliminary elections for next year's ASB were held last Friday, and most members were elected into their positions, with others going in a runoff voting against one other candidate. All offices will be finalized no later than next Friday, the 16th, and we're looking forward to a great ASB class next year. El Toro, along with all schools in the Saddleback Valley Unified School District, participated in a backpack and supply drive from April 21st to May 2nd, headed by the school board member, E.T.'s own John Maroon. After much hard work and dedicated collections, E.T. raised over 120 filled backpacks that contributed to the SVUSD total of over 450 backpacks to be donated to South County Outreach and given to students in need. Many senior males and their cheer and dance coaches are hard at work preparing for their much-anticipated male cheer performance to be performed at the May 16th pep rally. Speaking of the pep rally, ET's final pep rally this year will be Friday the 16th and will also be El Toro's first Clash of the Classes theme. There will be dress-up days all week for each class, ranging from Superhero Day to Formal Day to USA Day. Then there are a couple, especially for the senior class, that include College Gear Day and Senioritis Sweatpants Day. Friday, the day of the rally, will be Color Day, where each class will dress up in their designated color. Seniors wear blue, juniors white, sophomores yellow, and freshmen green. All week, there will be snack time competitions between the classes. Finally, music videos made by each of the classes will be shown and judges will decide a winner. ET looks forward to this brand new, exciting experience. Lastly, on behalf of all of El Toro High School and Ms. Scheidler, I would like to thank the City Council for your help and support through the Every 15 Minutes program and present to you this plaque of appreciation. We couldn't have done it without you. That's all for tonight. Thank you, and as always, go Chargers.
Thank you.
Well, thank you very much. And,
Could you hold 1 minute?
Since Councilwoman McCullough did attend that every 15 minutes, I think it would be appropriate for her to accept that plaque.
I didn't attend, but I
didn't-
just get the teddy bears.
You have
for it
gone.
every
You
year.
have gone number of times, correct? So yeah.
Yes.
So, and Councilman Voigts did attend.
Attended.
So if you both want to go down there and accept that plaque, I think that would be appropriate. Thanks.
Get out of the bag.
That brings us to the public comments portion of the agenda. At this time, members of the public may address the City Council regarding any items within the subject matter jurisdiction of the City Council. No action may be taken on items not listed on the agenda unless authorized by law. Comments shall be limited to 3 minutes per person and an overall time limit of 30 minutes for the public comments portion of the agenda. Any person wishing to address the City Council on any matter, whether or not it appears on this agenda, is requested to complete a request to speak form available off to my left, your right. The completed form is to be submitted to the city clerk prior to an individual being heard by the City Council. Whenever possible, lengthy testimony should be presented to the City Council in writing with at least 8 copies and only pertinent points presented orally. Additionally, a request to register written comments form is available at the agenda public review counter. And that's going to bring us to,
Mr. Mayor, if I may.
sure.
I'd like to, considering the time restraints on the, before the 4th of July, we have on our agenda tonight, number 11, item number 18. I'd like to respectfully pull that and let the public know that if I can get consensus of pulling that. I think we've come up with some alternates for the El Toro Boosters and Boy Scouts and Kiwanis and those to have resources that they much need, and maybe food vendoring at some of our city occasions. And so I'd like to see if I can get consensus to pull that, and so that way the public will be notified, so they don't have to wait through that if they were coming to speak on that.
Okay, well, I don't know that I want to necessarily address the agenda item right now, but are you saying you'd like to table the item?
Table the item.
Okay, and that's item 18? Okay. And just for those in the audience, that's the use of state-approved fireworks is how it's listed in the agenda. So there's been a request to table the item. I think the reasoning is just if you have shown up, we won't be, if this passes here, we won't be addressing the item tonight, But if you want to address it, it's still on the agenda, so when that item comes up, you could come for public comment. But if you choose to leave now, you could do that as well. So is that an appropriate?
Yeah, yes, and you could vote on that procedural motion now or when you get to it, whichever you prefer, Mayor.
Okay, well, I'll take the vote now just so that it gives the public the opportunity there. So there's a motion on the floor here to table the item. And again, if you choose to stick around till item 18, you wish to speak on the item, you definitely could. You'd be fully within your rights, and we'd take that information in. So, motion on the table. So, is there a second to table it?
I'll second that.
Okay, there's a motion and a second. Any discussion?
Oh, but I think Councilmember McCullough already had done it.
Oh, I'm sorry, I just didn't hear it. So, a motion and a second. So, council members, cast your votes on. This would be on tabling item 18. And that motion passes unanimously. Again, if you wish to speak on that and you want to stick around until we get to item 18, you're more than welcome to. I think since Councilmember Voigt's wanted to table it, this will just give you the opportunity to get out of here maybe an hour earlier, or who knows how long it'll take to get to that item. But again, if you want to stick around, you definitely.
And we're on that topic. Could I seek consensus to put on food vending at our parade for the high school boosters and Kiwanis clubs at this time? And just see if we get consensus on that now?
I think that would be best in my mind to do in the council comments.
Okay.
So, okay, thanks. All right, so I think that brings us to the warrant register. Oh, public comment, I'm sorry.
Marcia Rudolph, public comment, followed by Jim Gardner.
Good evening. I passed out Vector of the Month flyer, and it is the honeybee. And those of you who are parents, particularly of elementary school kids, might want to hang on to this because it would be a good foundation for a little paper or something your kids might want to elucidate to their compadres about. I've also discussed with Michael Hurst, who is the head of Vector Control, that there has been a goodly amount of interest in the big-headed ants, and he has assured me that at our next meeting, which is the 15th, we will be getting more information, and I'll pass that along to you when that happens. Thank you.
Thank you.
Jim Gardner.
Good evening, Mayor, Council, staff, and fellow residents. Last time I was here, I began to go through broken promises with you, Mayor. I got about a third of the way through, and I think I'm going to save all of us the pain and not continue through the rest of it. I hope I made my point, which is to you and to any politician, if you make promises, you should keep them. And we understand there are times you can't keep promises because you're not in control of the entire situation. On the other hand, you certainly shouldn't be doing the opposite of what you promised because you are in control of that. So going forward, it pains me as much to bring this stuff up as it does you to listen to it. I hope you'll spare us both the pain and be more considerate when you make promises in the future. I wanted to comment also on, because I come here so often criticizing the staff for not doing a good job with reports, I just read a report in the Planning Commission coming up for Tuesday night. It's a very good report. This is on the residential parking standards. So if I'm going to come here and criticize reports when they're not good, I need to come here and criticize and commend the staff when they do a very good report. And if you haven't read it, I'd recommend anybody read that. It's the Residential Standards Report coming up. It's really a good report. Finally, I'm here to advertise the Garden Club of Lake Forest. It's about 100 members, and they're great and green. And this Saturday, May 10th, from 8 a.m. to 1 p.m., they're going to have their annual sale. Anybody who's ever been there knows that's a great sale. There's no place you're ever going to find cheaper or better plants than you are there. And they schedule it that day because that's the day before Mother's Day. So I see there's a lot of kids in the audience. That's a great time to go there and pick up a plant for your mother. If you want exotic plants and really unusual plants, you need to get there 8 o'clock in the morning. They go fast. But if you get there about 1 o'clock in the afternoon, they give them away for free. So depending upon your needs, get there early or get there late. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
We've had no further requests.
All right, so that brings us to the consent calendar warrant register, item number 9. All matters listed under the warrant register are considered routine and will be enacted by one vote. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless members of the City Council, the public, or staff request specific items be removed from the warrant register for separate action. Have there been any members of the public that have requested to pull anything?
No, Your Honor.
Okay, council members?
Yes. I'd like to pull page 29.
Page 29, and
Yes.
what's the item?
Cummins and White.
Okay. Okay, and
In fact, incidentally, that Cummings and White payment for $125, that's for a petition that I filed against a decision made by the previous city council. I need to abstain on that.
okay. Request pull any other items off the warrant register?
No, I'll move the item.
Okay, so there's a motion to move the balance.
Item number 16.
Item, you're saying on the consent calendar itself? We're just talking about the
No, we're on
warrant
the
register.
warrant register.
So, okay, nothing on the warrant register? Okay,
Move the
so
remaining.
motion to move the balance other than that.
Second.
Okay, so there's a motion and a second. Council members, cast your votes. That motion passes, and that, want to bring up item 20, or, I'm sorry.
Mayor, just a bit of housekeeping. If that matter is being considered separate from the remainder of the warrants, as I think was the intention, then the appropriate process is for Mr. Nick to remove himself from the dais since it's been pulled. If it's uncontested, then he can remain and register an abstention. So we'll show an abstention, and he's already complied with the procedural instructions, so now we can consider it separately.
Councilwoman McCullough?
Yes. We've had several of these warrants come through, and I would like for the city attorney to, this is for $125, but over the period of time since our initial lawsuit and then the appeal after there was a loss in that lawsuit, I'd like to know what the amount is total. This is a suit where Mayor Pro Tem Nick sued the city, and this, I've already checked with our attorney. It's okay to mention this because it is public knowledge. And adding this 125 to our already cost, the cost of our first suit that we won, and then the appeal costs. This is an outside attorney, and also the cost that it costs our BBK, our city attorney, because we have to use an outside city attorney to prevent conflict of interest. I'd like to know what that total cost has been so far to the city.
Mayor and Council, according to finances records,
Approximately.
Yeah, the total, including this warrant, is $111,496.
$111,496.
Yeah, that's the account today.
Thank you. I'll move the item.
Okay. It's been a motion to move that particular item from the warrant register.
Second.
Motion and a second. Council members, cast your votes. That item passes unanimously with Mayor Pro Tem Nick abstaining. Would you mind grabbing him? Thank you. At this time, that brings us to the consent calendar, the miscellaneous items, numbers 10 through 17. All matters listed under the consent calendar are considered routine and will be enacted by one vote. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless members of the City Council, the public, or the staff request specific items be removed from the consent calendar for separate action. We had some from the public.
Yes, 2 members of the public for item 16.
Item 16. Okay, and council members, were there any items that you wanted to pull?
Yes, item 16.
Okay. Anything else?
Item 12 for comment only.
12. Okay. All right. I'll entertain a motion to move the balance. So with item 12 and 16 pulled.
So move.
Second?
Motion and a second.
Mayor, can we just, sorry, just a
Sure.
point of order. We had, on item 11, we try to track when each of you lives within 500 feet of these contracts and bids, and I don't know if you were given a heads up, Mr. Nick, but Mr. Nick lives within 500 feet of the slurry seal project.
Yes, actually, I have a note here. I apologize to you and to Mr. Dunick. He actually kindly gave me a note yesterday. It's in my pocket on item number 11. I was to abstain on that. Apparently, there is some slurry seal or some...
Goes within 500 feet of you.
It's near one of my I have several in Putti Ranch. It's near one of those properties. I was not mindful of it. I apologize.
No, that's why we're
Mr.
here.
Dunick, I apologize. You did give me a note, but thank you.
That's
sir.
why we're here. So that's all he needs to do is disclose that interest and lodge an abstention.
Okay, and so he can vote on the overall
On the remainder of the
balance,
consent.
but with abstention
Yes.
with item 11. So
That's it. Thank
there's a motion and a second.
I just have a question on that for the city attorney. I think it would be helpful, at a future meeting to just identify sort of things that, we ought to abstain from and not abstain from relative, especially to the warrant register, because there are things that are maintenance that are within maybe 300 or 500 feet of our house that may that are just like routine maintenance. That maybe, and just as a technical point, I think that slurry seal is actually defined by engineers as maintenance, but I can understand why Councilmember Nick would want to abstain.
All right, so I think staff has heard the point there. So there's a motion and a second, and so all council members cast your votes. Motion passes unanimously. So items 11, 12, and 16 have been pulled.
Actually, 12 and
Oh,
16.
Sorry, not 11. 11 was the...
Yes, I've registered the abstention.
Apologize.
Thank you.
12 and 16.
Agenda item 12, cost sharing and cooperative agreement with Mission Viejo for the Los Alisos Rehabilitation Project, submitted by Director of Public Works, City Engineer, and removed from the consent calendar by Councilmember Rudolph. I apologize. Councilmember McCullough.
I will forgive you this time.
You are very dear friends.
We're not that dear that we're going to share names or bodies. Okay. First of all, I want to make sure that I wasn't within the 500 feet. And I just wanted to say this is a project that was well overdue, and I really thank you for doing it. Move the item.
And a motion.
Second.
Motion and a second. So council members cast your votes. Item passes unanimously.
Agenda item 16, contractual services agreement with the Lake Forest Chamber of Commerce, submitted by Assistant City Manager and removed from the consent calendar by members of the public. Mike Brunhock and Mary Viscani, followed by Jim Gardner.
Well, good evening, Mayor and City Council. As you know, one of the agenda items is item 16, which is the service contract between the City of Lake Forest and the Chamber. On behalf of the Chamber, we would like to thank the Mayor and the City Council for their support in this business community partnership over the past 5 years. Time flies. I can't believe it's 5 years. Also, I want to let you know, when we began in 2009, we began as an all-volunteer chamber. And today, 5 years later, we're still all volunteers. And so we appreciate the support and that the city provides, and it has been a great partnership. You know, some of the services in the contract that we provide support for the Shop and Dine Lake Forest, promote the Business Development Attraction Program, the State of the City. I know, Mayor, you were there, the Meet the Mayor event. These are great events that the Chamber provides great resources for the city, ultimately for the business community. Bring people together and connect. This Friday, as you know, we have the Secrets and Strategies to Small Business Success. That's a free event for all businesses. Bring them together, share strategies. So we continue to appreciate the support. Mary is our president. She's done a wonderful job, and our volunteer staff as well. We've done over 20 joint ribbon cuttings with the city. Many of you have been there at the ribbon cuttings, and we continue to do that. Again, bring businesses together to connect. And I think it's just a great partnership, and we look forward to the continued support from the city, mayor, and the city council. So thank you.
On that,
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, I was actually included in that poll, and my polling it was for one reason, because you're an all-volunteer organization. I just want to say that this is my 4th year as city councilman, and I've missed maybe on one hand how many ribbon cuttings I've missed of yours guys, and so I want to say what a great job you guys do in bringing a good face and a social atmosphere and welcoming the businesses to the city of Lake Forest and part of the family. Thank you for doing that. It really means a lot to us that you are doing that, and I dream of a day when we will have a paid staff for you guys.
So do we.
It works for now.
So thank you.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Oh, thank you.
Mayor.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Be brief. I want to say that I was a part of that original vote, and I've never regretted. You have lived up to my expectations and super exceeded it. Thank you.
Jim Gardner.
Good evening, Mayor, Council, staff, and fellow residents. I want to support it. I agree with everything everybody said. They do a great job. They're unfunded. They're just about everywhere. The only recommendation I would have, which is a recommendation I've made often in regard to other contracts, and that is the KPIs or the key performance indicators. I think it's not enough, and, they do a great job, but we're not really asking for an event. What we're looking for are increases in sales, increases in jobs, increases in businesses moving into Lake Forest, decreases in businesses leaving Lake Forest. So in a contract like this that I'm fully supportive of, it would be nice, instead of focusing on the event per se, that we could throw in some KPIs and say, as a result of that event, we gained this many new businesses. As a result of that event, 17 businesses that were going to leave didn't leave. So with the exception of that, I give it my wholehearted support. Thank you.
We've had no further requests to speak.
Okay, bring the item back to council.
Move the item.
Yeah, I'd like to second that, and enthusiastically, you guys deserve it, so thank you, guys. Second.
So there's a motion and a second. Just briefly, I would just like to say, I think one of those measures of success is the growth of the chamber itself. You can tell that the small businesses and some of the larger ones here in town really appreciate what they do. We want to get some of those larger companies to get even more involved, and so I think each one of us can do that. There are plenty of people in this community who not only live in Lake Forest, but they might also work at an Oakley or work at a Panasonic Avionics or Wonderwear, one of those companies. And so, getting those bigger companies involved, I think is really beneficial. And then continuing the outreach to the small businesses. I think the ribbon cuttings are also a reflection of some of those measurements that there are new businesses coming into town. And so, really appreciate everything they do. There's a motion and a second. If there's no more discussion, then council members cast your votes. Motion passes unanimously. Brings us to discussion action items, and
Item 18, use of state-approved fireworks submitted by city manager.
okay, and we've taken a vote on that to table it at this point. So, do you want to forego the staff report? Is that
I think that'd be prudent,
Okay.
Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
great? I guess we'll bring the public comment if they're still here and they'd like to comment on item 18. Go
James Dolan, followed by Marcia Rudolph.
Oh, hi. My name's James Dolan, Jim. I came before the City Council a couple months ago just to talk about the community and the schools and fundraising, and I just want to comment on the appreciation that I have, as well as a lot of the coaches and other people in the community, how the City of Lake Forest is really supportive of the schools, the programs, the youth, and the things that are going on. I know a couple of you have been to basketball games, Scott and Mayor Robinson, and I particularly want to thank Gary and Carlo for putting the time and effort into that they did. I read the report. It's very thorough. I know we're not talking about it tonight, but just the efforts that have gone through and the discussions following that. With the issue isn't to me and the school about fireworks per se. It's about fundraising and how we could actually help these programs. And so it's been a really good reception by everybody here. And I just want to thank each and every one of you of everything you've done, and hopefully we can take things to the next steps and think about creative ways that we can do, in particular with the new sports park, which Gary gave Coach Dixon and I a tour of, and it is just absolutely fantastic, and obviously best of all being under budget and all those types of things and not having to, spend much money on it, which is cool. But I just want to thank everybody for your time and effort to put it into the agenda, for one, and to think about the school and the programs there that are desperately needed, and we look forward to working with all of you in the future. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Marcia Rudolph, followed by Jim Gardner.
Okay. I remember when this discussion was had, but within the first 2 years of cityhood, we ended up heir to the ordinance in opposition to the fireworks sale and upheld it. And this is the first time it's come back for discussion. I have a couple thoughts. Since it's not going to be acted on, my thoughts are, kind of think about this between now and your vote at the next meeting. Number one, our city has as one of its assets an urban forest, and the major trees in the urban forest are probably one of the most fire-prone, scary ones if they catch fire, and that's the eucalyptus trees. So that's one issue we need to think about, because those eucalyptus trees are very scary if they get started, and we do have an urban forest. Second thing to think about is I know there's a need for money, but is the dollars that would be gotten from the sale of safe and sane fireworks worth a child's eye, a child's hand, a house going up? There's a lot of things that can happen because of the fireworks being present. My children, I have 6, all went to the Saddleback School District, and they were all in performance and in sports. And we were able to get by without having to sell fireworks. We managed to do it with all of the other fundraising items that you do. I remember, shoveling beer at the tennis tournament in Newport, that kind of thing. So it is possible to do it. You have to work a little bit harder, but I don't think that the downside is worth the few pennies, and I do know it's more than a few pennies that you get when you adopt this or when you decide you're going to support it. But the bottom line is, it's too scary a proposition. when you think about what you are getting for the money that you would get by supporting this. So I'm hoping that this will give you food for thought. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Jim Gardner, followed by Bob Holtzclaw.
I'm getting tired of it. I'm sure you are too. My name is Jim Gardner. I'm from Lake Forest. Good evening again. I'm not going to talk about the fireworks. I just wanted to say that I've been studying reports from the staff for 8 years. This is the finest report I've ever seen from a staff member. And what a pain in the ass I am as a professor, I would give this report an A. So congratulations to Bob and congratulations to Carlo. When you have that kind of information in front of you, you're just almost always going to make excellent decisions. So commendations to everybody involved in producing that report. Thank you.
Bob Holtzclaw.
Hello, Bob Holtzclaw, longtime member, resident here of Lake Forest. And I want to thank Councilman Voights and Councilman McCullough for taking away my fire on this, even though now it's a proclamation of Wildfire Awareness Week also. And I just wanted to go over a few things with you as far as safe and insane fireworks. It's a bad idea. Let's start with the rainfall for this area. Normally it's around 13 to 14 inches, and it goes from June 30th to June 30th. So here's last 3 years. 2011 to 2012, 9 and 5/8 inches. 2012 to 2013, 6 and 3/8 inches. 2013 to 2014, 6 1/4 inches, and I doubt very much if we're going to get another 6 inches before June 30th. So we're looking at a 3-year drought, and this would not be a time for fireworks. I remember years ago, well, it's not that too long ago, when we had a big fire in Foothill, and a lot of the area was under smoke there. If you stood at the parking lot at Walmart right there, and you looked north, you could not see 500 homes because it was covered with smoke, and it was that bad. And the grass fire out there, I guarantee you, if it happened, not one of you could outrun it because it could move that fast. It even jumped over the 210 freeway and caught fire on the other side. So even a fire break wouldn't have held that fire back. It just burned out itself, and thanks to the fire department. Former Councilman Tenemer took pictures of the fire. And before you think about voting on something like this, he has all those photos. I think you should take a look at them before you even start, thinking about voting for a fireworks deal. Because there's always some little kid that wants to try out a sparkler before 4th of July and go out to the woods or go out to the other area and try it out, and all of a sudden, boom, we've got a big fire going. Last, I think, is also our fire department would be at great risk, and also our private homes. I'd hate to see the man to my right here behind me get injured, or any of the firefighters trying to put out a fire that was needlessly started. And then again, if you have your home burned down, what does the city council do? Gee, I'm sorry. That's it's a bad idea. So I hope that if there ever comes to it again, let's have a no vote. Thank you.
Mayor. We've had no further requests.
Bring it back to council.
One thing that I would like for the citizens and for El Toro to remember, with a yes or a no vote, for me, my vote is no, but we are not forgetting the main thing is there need to be some fundraising, and the city staff will be working with you and other groups that are having situations of raising funds in a safe way to help bring funds. That's the main thing. Fireworks, for me, is out, because I know what we went through already, but it's not a dead issue as far as helping to raise some funds. And I don't want you to lose sight of that, raise funds, so things can continue. Thank you.
And on that motion, the idea was to benefit the youth of our city with the resources. But in thinking about this, and after reading the excellent staff report that we had before us, my mind was going, and we have a concert series here in Lake Forest, and we're very proud of it, and the community comes out in force. And in the last 2 summers, there haven't been any food venue places there with real food. I'd like to make a motion that, or recommend, or try to get it for consensus, is that we bring it back to the city council so we can get the Kiwanis, the chamber, the high school boosters involved in food vending at our city park for the concert series. And then I was thinking that we have a parade, which is the limelight of South Orange County in parades. We have the best parade here, I feel, in all of Orange County. But we have different locations because people come walking into that. I thought it would be a great time for us to set up 2 corner barbecue areas where we can have like a little street fair. We got the streets closed anyways, and so I leave it to staff to figure this out, but we could have the boosters from El Toro, the Kiwanis, and that way to apply and make it an opportunity for them to raise funds. And if I can get consensus with that, I think that we could do it at Toledo and Lake Forest or Ridge Route and by the high school there. I think that would be a great opportunity because the community's out in force. So if I could get consensus.
Mayor, before I get agree to the consensus, is that one of the issues with the food is that we need to work with the Orange County Health Department to make sure all our I's are dotted and our T's are crossed. That is one of the things that's a hindrance, and that's something that, for myself, I've already talked to staff about it, and the staff will be looking into it and working with it to get the guidelines and get a clearance from the health department, because otherwise, as things stand now, we can come in and shut it. They can and have did it in other places here in our city and shut it down. So if we're going to take and let the staff take the lead on this so they can work with the health department and get things set up so that when we do this, it can be a go, because people being about food going to sell it and the health department come in and shut it down because we have missed one of the guidelines that they want us to miss, then the people have lost money and we've defeated our cause. Our staff is very efficient, and I expect them to work with the health department and make sure everything is in place, and then we can get it together. It's out there what we would like to see, and we're giving that to the staff. If you want to give directions for them to work with them and get it done, I can support that.
I'll repeat my motion to send it to staff to bring back some alternatives and some qualifications for the safety for that. But I think that we could do that, and I think it'd be a great opportunity for the community to help our youth. And so,
I will second that.
Thank you.
Okay. Typically, we do that in council comments, but I think we've got consensus here. We're not going to debate the issue tonight. We'll just direction to staff. So. All right, and so we'd already tabled that item earlier, so there's no vote that will be taken at this point. That item's just tabled to an undetermined period in the future, and I think since Councilmember Voights took the initial lead, if he decides to bring that back, that'll be his decision, or I guess any of us could make that decision if we chose to. That brings us to...
Let me just say, I hope it doesn't come back. I hope the fireworks aspect does not come back.
Okay.
Agenda item 19, discussion of City of Irvine campaign financing law, submitted by Deputy City Manager, Director of Management Services.
Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council, this was placed on the agenda at the request of Mayor Pro Tem Nick. The staff has nothing further to add at this juncture.
We had some public comments.
Jim Gardner.
Good evening, Mayor, Council, staff, and fellow residents. My name is Jim Gardner. I live in Lake Forest. Thank you very much, Mayor Pro Tem Nick, for bringing this before the council. If you remember, and I'm sure you will remember, last year, at some point or another, you were in a debate with former Mayor Herzog, as you were in many debates with former Mayor Herzog. But in this particular one, you both agreed on the need for campaign finance reform. Now, you know, if there's a situation in which you and Peter Herzog agreed on something, somehow there's a powerful truth there, because there were very few things that the two of you agreed on. Since 2008, as you know very well, and some of you know better than others of you, I've been tracking campaign contributions to city council members. Over $100,000 has come into the campaign coffers of city council members. On this side, on that side, go the votes. Dozens and dozens of votes. Would it surprise you to find out if the money comes in this way, the vote goes out that way? Shouldn't surprise you. It's what you'd expect. Not saying it's illegal. It's certainly disgraceful. It's not illegal. It's not illegal because the politicians who wrote the laws took bribery and payoffs, created a loophole through which this is able to be done, which in any other circumstances in other businesses, people would go to jail. The city council, and this is not here in Lake Forest peculiarly, it's a problem all over. But the problem will not be solved, as the city of Irvine proposes, with campaign contribution limits. The reason for that, in the years that I've been tracking this, and in the $100,000 more of campaign contributions I've identified, people are already giving smaller amounts. So the same company gets 5 people and each of them give $250. So that will not solve it. It needs to be solved by getting at that conflict of interest. When you take money, those of you who take money, then you should recuse yourself from that vote. It's as simple as that. Of course, that means the guy wouldn't give you the money in the first place, but that would solve the problem. So again, thank you very much, Mayor Pro Tem Nick, for bringing this to us. I think it's an important issue. Even Peter Herzog believes this is an important issue. But I don't think it will be solved by that, and I welcome the city of Lake Forest coming up with a powerful way to solve such a hideous problem. Thank you.
We've had no further requests.
Okay. I will bring it back to council and start with Mayor Pro Tem Nick, since he initiated this particular agenda item.
Thank you, Mayor Robinson. Dr. Gardner, I'm not certain, but I think if a company or if an employer, I think if an employer or if somebody of affluence were to give 5 individuals 5 payments of, say, $200 each, and say, go write a check for $200 each of you to so-and-so, I think that is not legal, actually. I think you cannot divide up a sum of money to several individuals and have them go spend that money as you tell them. I think that's against the law. If the money is coming from you, it needs to go from you to whoever. I don't think you can give money to somebody and say, give this to so-and-so on your behalf. So if I succeed in doing what I'm doing tonight, what you brought up would not be a problem. Well, anybody can break the law, but I think that's against the law. If somebody chooses to break it, there would be consequences, of course. As far as moving to compel elected officials to recuse themselves from a vote based on the notion that they received legal campaign contributions, I don't think I can legally do that. I don't think we can legally force an elected official. I don't like it. I'm just telling you what I think the law is. I don't think we can require an elected official to recuse himself, as much as we should be able to recuse himself from voting based on the notion that they took money from the individual before the podium. I don't think we can do that. So enough of what we can't do. Let's see what we can do to at least not eliminate, but at least curtail the problem. The reason I brought this up, and it's been on my mind for quite some time, in fact, back in 2012, I produced and posted on my website what was entitled Nick's Vision for Lake Forest. In that narrative, I had 30 or so items, some of which I've already accomplished, some of which were voted down by my colleagues, and interestingly, I went down 4-1 on those, 2 of which are before us tonight, some of which are remaining for me to combat in the near future. To what is before us tonight, campaign finance laws. I believe when we have restriction as to how much can be contributed to a campaign or to a candidate running for public office, we alleviate big money from buying elections. Now, if you want to throw your money in, your own money, that's your money. And if you believe strongly enough in a cause, who am I to stop you from spending your own money? But somebody else's money, especially the way it happens, big companies to which money is not an object, they have virtually unlimited resources throughout the country, not just here, not just at the local level. They buy elections, they buy elected officials, and I won't go there. I think it won't eliminate, but I think it'll alleviate corporations' ability to buy elections and effectively install their chosen candidate in a position of, in a capacity of decision making. And if you think about it, the federal government has campaign limits, campaign finance laws. The state actually, if you run for assembly, for example, today, the limit is, I think, $4,100 per individual. The federal government, I think it's $2,600 if you were to run for Congress. A married couple, twice as much. Whether that would be $5,200 or $9,200, whatever. It's twice as much. As such, I've already spoken a great deal when I introduced this. At this point, we're not there yet, and what I mean by that, at this point, we are at the point, but at this juncture, I am ready to further my mission by requesting the city attorney to yet come back to us with a more comprehensive analysis as to the pros and cons of campaign finance laws and provide us comparisons between our municipal code, which I think is very, very deficient, to those municipalities such as Irvine, who have relatively a robust ordinance as to campaign finance laws. I don't have anything else to say except I believe it precludes corporations from purchasing, from buying elections, and as such elected officials. If other bigger governments have them, there's got to be some merit to it, especially if the federal government has something. I believe in the federal government. I believe in the state governments. I believe in all governments in this great nation of ours. And I've seen the lack of governance. So, believe me, we are blessed. You know that. Everybody knows that. We are blessed to be Americans. I don't have anything else, Mayor Robinson, to say except I would like my colleagues to debate this and hopefully honor me with my motion, which I will make at the end of the discussion. Thank you.
What's before us on this agenda item is essentially considering Irvine's campaign finance ordinance, which, however robust it might be, in the mayor's election in 2012, they still combined between current Mayor Choi and Larry Agron managed to spend well over $1 million on their campaigns at under $400 limit. So it really didn't limit anything. A lot of that money ends up being spent through independent expenditures, which the Supreme Court has weighed in on and said that that local, state, county, federal government can't really have no say when it comes to independent expenditures. So, I don't think that it accomplishes what it's set out to do. I think that in the end, it just becomes an ordinance that becomes a political football for the council members in Irvine to toss around. And so, for that reason, that's one of the many reasons why I don't support this item. I was supportive of bringing it to the dais so that we could have that discussion, but definitely do not support campaign finance ordinances of any kind. For me, it's purely a freedom of speech issue. One of the public commenters brought up a particular council member who had supported this last year. In looking at the 460s, that particular former council member's own mother donated well in excess of what this ordinance would put in place. And if we were to adopt something similar to Irvine's, do I want my own mother to be kept from being able to support my campaign? Absolutely not. But that's what an ordinance like this would do. Now, would it have other impacts that would be good? Yeah, potentially. But we have to look at the long-term ramifications and implications of the decisions we make and not just look at them in very narrow ways. And again, this is a freedom of speech issue for me. I think that each individual should be able to donate as much as they want. And it's really incumbent upon the candidate or the elected official themselves to hold themselves to that level where their vote is not being impacted in any way by the donation that's made. When I personally support candidates, and I support a lot, and I support them in excess of the number that Irvine has as a limit, and I've supported Irvine council members to the limit, wishing that I could support them even more. I do so because I believe in the person. They're not going to vote for me 100% of the time, vote the way I would like them to 100% of the time, but I believe in their core principles, their core philosophy. That's why I support them. And I want to support them as much as I possibly can because I want to see them get into office so that they can affect change. I'm not supporting them because they're going to vote a particular way. I'm supporting a candidate because of what they believe in. If they don't believe in what I believe in, I'm not going to support them. I'm not going to give them a single dollar. And I wouldn't give them a single dollar even if they would change their mind and support what my ideals were, because I wouldn't want a person that was going to do something like that. And I will never act that way as an elected official myself. So for that reason, again, I was supportive of putting this on the agenda because I think that it is a discussion that's important to have. And again, for me, the most important part to that is that it's a freedom of speech issue. Each individual should be able to support candidates to the level that they choose. And, I don't support the limits that there are at even the state and federal level. I was involved in state campaigns when there weren't limits. I was volunteering on campaigns, and my parents were financially supporting candidates when they didn't have the limits they have today. Do people think California government's any better today than it was 30 years ago when they didn't have the limits? You look at polls, and they say absolutely not. Look at the federal government. They've got limits in place. What's their approval rating? On a good day, it's in the teens. In a bad day, it's in the single digits. So I don't think that it really has accomplished what it's set out to do. We're still frustrated by a lot of the individuals that end up going to Sacramento or going to Washington, D.C. So I don't think this really solves the problem. I recognize there's a problem. Again, I think that's incumbent on each one of us as elected officials, either at the state, county, federal, or local level, to make sure that we are sticking to our core principles regardless of who supports us or doesn't support us. That's what's most important to me. Councilman Bass?
Yes. The challenge, I guess, is to try and make this a level playing field for all potential candidates. And that's something that, as one would all hope, that can be done. The challenge is with that is that there are certain limits that have been placed in other entities, and then some limits are not there. And so that means people who have access to those limits that are not controlled may have a greater chance of certainly raising more money. But more than that, on April 2nd of 2014, just a little over a month ago, the Supreme Court rendered an opinion relative to, now this was on a federal campaign donation lawsuit that was brought, but I think, unlikely as it may be, I think every attorney would agree that this would apply to state and local elections. And Chief Justice Roberts, who wrote the majority opinion, stated, and I quote, "We have made clear that Congress may not regulate contributions simply to reduce the amount of money in politics or to restrict the political participation of some in order to enhance the relative influence of others." And he later will say that, we may not like it, and there are certain things that are permitted under freedom of speech that we may not like, but it is what is permitted, and it is what the court decided. With that, it would make it seem to me a challenge to draft some sort of ordinance that complies with the Supreme Court decision. And if one were to take the position that it might not apply, I think that would open the door to litigation, which I don't think is beneficial to the city or its overall operations. As much as we sometimes agree with the Supreme Court, sometimes we don't. Sometimes we don't agree with the Ninth Circuit. But, the Ninth Circuit had some other things that they said about this similar issue. And, when the Ninth Circuit and the Supreme Court agree, that's not common. But anyway, because it appears to me that there is no effective or legal way, constitutional way, that the city can regulate contributions simply to reduce the amount of money in politics, it seems that this issue is now moot, and we are unfortunately left without the ability to regulate limitations or contributions in any way.
Any other comments?
This is an ordinance modeled after Irvine's, and the fact is that the hundreds of thousands of dollars and even millions of dollars that are spent in Irvine campaigns has really taken the money underground to where here we actually, donations are all reported on your 460s, and it's before all of you. And the fact is that I think that are there people that give us money because they believe in us? That's what donations are about, going out there and earning the trust of the people and earning the trust of those that are willing to contribute to you. So I think that it's taken away the ability for people to come and even challenge us, because I think that if you take away the right for people to go out and raise money for people who believe with them, I think that you're taking away their ability to run for office. And so that's all.
Councilwoman McCullough?
Thank you, Mayor. when I went through this, I had to go through our paperwork 3 or 4 times, maybe more, because I could not believe that we have an ordinance, attempting to put an ordinance on that would eliminate the opportunity of a person of grassroots. And I'm a person from grassroots. I don't have a bunch of money, and I don't get big money. And I once said that I doubted if I had spent $30,000 and someone checked my 460 forms, and I spent got just a little over $30,000. And that's in 5 runs. That's all 5 added together. All 5. Now, most of that $30,000 I had borrowed from my husband, and I'd borrowed from my mom. I'd borrowed from myself. I had a little bit here and there from others. And I believe that a person here in our city that love their city and want to be a blessing to this city by running and participating and giving service, they should not be limited, because our state laws already they have now instituted where every 2 years you have to go through conflict of interest, and you just can't go through that conflict of interest because it's required. It's mandatory. You must. And in doing that, even before that takes place, before you can take the seat, you swear an oath. And in that oath, you swear to obey the law. The conflict of interest lets you know some of the things that you must not do and you must do. I've learned in my life that if somebody's dishonest, I don't care how many rules and regulations you put on them, they're going to be dishonest. If somebody is a complainer, no matter what you do, you can give them every good rainbow in the world, any color you want, they're going to be a complainer. If somebody is positive and is looking up, they're going to look up no matter how bad things are in their personal life or around them. You cannot change mankind's behavior. They're going to do what they're going to do. We have enough laws in place that there is things to do. This that Irvine has is a joke, because like our mayor says, they still throw a lot of money at a campaign. I'm hoping and trusting that my colleagues will vote this down, because here in our city, there should never be an opportunity for someone that has money to buy a seat. And grassroots people, which this city was founded on, grassroots people going out volunteering, knocking door to door, walking every inch of this city to get people to take our city, which was El Toro town at the time, take it away from the county so we would be able to chart our own destiny. I'm in hope that my colleagues would vote this down and make sure that each and every citizen that would desire to sit in this seat would not have to buy it by their money or any other means. As far as someone taking money and then taking and swaying a vote one way or another, that's against the law. And we don't need, that's against the state law, so we don't even need that law here. There's no reason for duplication. And when you talk about it, you need, talk about this, you'll see there's many people that has gotten a seat up here and has not spent big bucks or taken big bucks or taken and did any of the things that is opposed. I have a friend that always say whenever things like this come up, they do place honorable in front of our name. If a person is honorable, they're going to be honorable, whether they're sitting in a seat with monies from people all about, people like our mayor's family and others that care and feel that they are people of integrity, and they will take money from people who do not. But if they say honorable and they're a person of integrity, no amount of money and nothing that someone give them is going to influence them to do wrong, because that honorable and that integrity is buried within them. So I don't feel that I need to try and fix something that's not broken. And my vote will be no on this proposed city ordinance. I'll call for the vote. And making a motion.
There's a motion and a second, so it's open for discussion.
Notwithstanding the hyperbole you just heard from Councilwoman McCullough, The campaign limits is only one small part of this. At this point, we're not even equipped. We don't even have the knowledge. Well, I do, but we have not been given the knowledge yet to actually ascertain what Irvine has and it doesn't have, or what other municipalities have or don't have. At this point, we have been given a very, very basic window into what Irvine has. And my colleagues, some of them, are focusing on this as if it exists in a vacuum. It does not. It is only one of the many measures. We don't have to shut down this whole thing, not quite yet. For example, one of the things that it requires that we don't, it requires that elected officials provide essentially a fresher, a reminder in between filings. What do I mean by that? Let's say this is sometime in February, and let's say such and such company is before me. And let's say such and such company that is before me last month, in the month of January, gave me $5,000. Now, my colleagues want you to think that, well, the state law says reported. Absolutely, it will be reported. When? When the filing takes place early July for the first half of the year. So when they come before me in February and they have given me money in January, nobody knows. You don't, I know, God knows, they know. And I'm not even required to disclose that to you before I give them the contract. By the time you get to learn it, it'll be July, if you remember to even check it, and it'll be after the fact anyway. One of the things this ordinance would do is it requires the council person to say, hey, this is February, I'm not going to have to file my finance disclosure till early July for the first half of the year. I am required to tell every single one of you that last month, this guy at the podium who wants this multi-million-dollar contract gave me $5,000. And by the way, I'm going to vote for him, or I'm not going to vote for him. But I want you to know he gave me $5,000. And the reason I want you to know that, it's not so much that I want you to know it, I'm required. This ordinance, one of the things it does, it requires the elected official to disclose contributions when those contributions have not yet made it into filing, because those files are not due yet. And it has a host of other things. At this point, we actually brought this up so that we would have an initial discussion, not to take a motion to kill it, or we're not going to approve it tonight. Don't be mistaken. They're sounding as if we were going to say, yeah, we're going to have campaign contribution limits. This is not why this is on the agenda. I promise you, I'm the one who brought it up. I know what I'm talking about. We were not going to approve it tonight. We were going to discuss it in hopes that I can get two of my colleagues to have the city attorney come back to us with a thorough analysis. Because this is not a thorough analysis. This is just a two-page thing, barely talking about what Irvine has. It is not statewide, and it is not comprehensive. And I'm not saying the city attorney or the staff did an inadequate job. No, not at all. I'm not saying that. They provided the basic as they were supposed to. They were not supposed to do anything more than the basic. They were supposed to provide the basic. They have done that very, very adequately. But it's the basic. Now, we need to get the real information, cross-reference it with ours to see what we don't have. How could you vote something down if you don't know what it entails? On November 4th, 1979, I draw most everything in life from experience. On November 4th, 1979, on my way home, some, let's not call them thugs, let's just call them religious fanatics, were throwing these little booklets into the fire, into fires that they had set outside of the American embassy. And U.S. flag, British flag, and Israeli flag were in the fire. And they were throwing these little booklets. I asked, what is that? They said, well, it's the British Constitution and the U.S. Constitution and the Israeli Constitution. Why are you doing this? Well, because they're satanic. It's satanic, literally. Word for word, the translation would be satanic. Satanic. And this was the civilized part of the event, by the way. The event, things got out of hands. But we don't need to go there. So I said, what is satanic about them? This was, still things were calm, we were talking. They said, well, they're satanic. How do you know? Have you read them? No. So how do you know they're satanic? I know because they're English, they're Americans, they're British, they're Israelis, they're Jews, they're Christians, they're not Muslims. Okay, fine. How do you know they're full of satanic remarks? Well, we don't know that. And yet, they were throwing these in the fire, and things got out of hand, and life took a different course for me. What I'm trying to say is, this very council tonight would be doing the same thing that those teenagers, those young people were doing back then. Putting into fire would be effectively killing something, and you don't even know what it is. We don't. They're lying to you. If they tell you they know what it is, they're lying to you. They don't know what it is. I promise you, they don't know what it is. Ask them. Have one of them tell you exactly what it is. All I want at this point, I'm not asking for them to vote on this. That was not the plan. I brought this up to here. At this point, I need two of my colleagues, and in particular, I'm looking at the gentleman to my immediate right and to my immediate left, to support me so that information comes back to us in a thorough fashion. Again, this is not a misdoing of the city attorney or the staff. No. The motion I made, I only had one support. As such, what they provided was basic. It's literally 2 pages. 2 pages. All I need now is support from 2 individuals on the dais so that they can come back with a thorough analysis and a cross-reference as to what Irvine has, as to what San Francisco may have, as to what we don't have. Let's look at them one by one. The ones that are good, we adopt them. The ones that are not good, we won't adopt them. We'll vote on each one by one. If we kill this right now, we would have killed everything else that this has, which we don't even know what, well, I do, but they don't even know what it is. Ask them, what does Irvine have? What does San Francisco have? What does Oakland have? Oakland has a great conflict of interest ordinance. Very, very thorough. All I want is for the information. Let's not throw this into the fire. Let's not kill it. I am going to make a substitute motion. Can I? May I do that? All right. This is a substitute motion, and it has to be heard first before the ill-conceived premature motion rendered by Councilwoman McCullough. At this point, we have been given a summary of Irvine's ethics policy. Summary. The operative word being summary. I strongly believe Irvine ethics policy in its entirety, this is not in its entirety, I strongly believe in its entirety, it keeps council members in line so that they cannot abuse their positions to advance their own personal gain, which may have been the case here in Lake Forest for many years. I request that the council be furnished. That's all I'm asking. I'm not voting this up or down. I request that the council be furnished a comparison of Irvine's policy and those are other municipalities as the city attorney sees fit to our policy, highlighting provisions in those policies that are not previously adopted in Lake Forest for us to debate them, all of which hopefully will be consolidated, hopefully being the operative word here, will be consolidated into one revised, robust, codified code of ethics. Also equally, our emphasis must be on adopting strict and harsh enforcement procedures for us to have the means to swiftly deal with those council members who violate this code. Because today, they don't even get a slap on the wrist if they violate the code. They don't. Read it. There's no consequence. And if you have common sense, you know that if there is no consequence, you cannot hold people accountable because they just do what they wish. Because they know you're not going to reach them. You can't reach them because there is no consequence. They don't even get a slap on the wrist. They don't even get a $5 fine. That includes me also. I can break our own laws. They can't touch me. Furthermore, the new code hopefully shall entail, depending on when we take the vote at the time, an amendment requiring supplemental and updating in between filing campaign disclosures, which I explained earlier what that is, by potential contractors, and simultaneously a public disclosure of any and all contributions of past, present, financial or otherwise. Again, you come before me, you want me to award a multi-million-dollar contract to you, I would be required to tell the public on camera that I took money from you last month. Which money I will report 5 months from now. By then, it'll be moot. Those cross-references to those robust policies will help us determine what we want to adopt, what we don't want to adopt. We may not want to adopt any of them. We may want to adopt all of them. We just don't know. All I'm asking for is the information. Let's not throw this in the fire. Let's not kill it. Let's not kick it. No harm will come out of us having the information. That's my motion. I just need the information to come back to us. Please don't kill this. For 20 plus years, this has gone on. You promised me, and you promised me, that we will do right by the people. All I'm asking is, let us debate this after we have the information, after you have the information that I already have. And the people of Lake Forest having the same information, because they don't, at this point, you're depriving them. By killing this prematurely, you're depriving them of the knowledge that you know they don't have. Nothing bad can come out of knowing something. We don't have to adopt it. Let's just have it. Let's discuss it. Hopefully we'll adopt some, if not all. We will not adopt any, but let's have an intellectual, educated process. Thank you.
Okay. What the agenda item and the recommended action for tonight is to review, discuss, and provide direction. So there's a motion and a second.
Point of order. I believe we're on agenda item 19, campaign financing.
It was spilling into that, so we need to stick to the campaign finance part and not the ethics code part. Okay,
Right,
which is
because
the next
a lot
item.
of what
Okay.
Council Member or Mayor Pro Tem Nick
I'd like to
talking
call
about
the vote.
was
I'd like to call the vote.
really on ethics, because he said that in the early part of it and in the latter part of the discussion on it, which is on the agenda, so we can discuss it. It's just a little bit premature, in my opinion.
Absolutely. So appreciate the comments there. Again, there's a motion and a second to provide, or I guess to move forward with no direction, but to just stop at this point. Is that correct? And then there's a substitute motion, which would require a second before killing the initial motion, and to move forward with some of the items. I think we'd probably have to pull the ethics code part out and separate that out, but I'll ask for the city attorney's guidance when we get to that point. I'd just like to provide a few comments. Like I mentioned in my initial comments, this is a freedom of speech issue. So for me, doesn't mean that it is for everyone, but for me, this is a freedom of speech issue. So if you want to talk about burning the Constitution, that's burning the First Amendment of the Constitution.
Yes, right.
Okay, by having campaign finance restrictions. It doesn't get any more clear than that to me. So now people can have differing opinions, that's fine, but it doesn't get any more clear than that to me. So, as I mentioned, there's a motion and a second. There's a substitute motion, so I'll give a little bit of time for a second on that substitute motion.
Can we have the substitute motion stated or restated?
Would you mind restating the substitute motion? And I'll just, before I have you restate that, just maybe give some clarification to how we should maybe.
Yeah, Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem Nick can restate his substitute motion, of course. Some of his motion, I agree, went to a broader discussion, the items contained in item 20, not just item 19, which was campaign finance limits. And so what I think you ought to do, he can restate the motion, but what I think you ought to do is then consider either combining the items so that both could be covered under his motion, or deferring the part that talks to the ethics code more generally until you get to item number 20. That would be between, I think, the mayor and Mr. Nick to broker, but I'd suggest that you either consider both items together before you vote on that motion, or ask him to keep part of that at bay until you get to item 20.
Okay. Since there could be some different sentiments with respect to each agenda item, it would be my preference that we separated the two.
Just that, Mayor Pro Tem Nick, sorry to explain, to clarify, item number 19 related only to contribution limits, and item number 20 was the broader item. I think your message went to both, but mostly to item number 20. But that's, of course, for you to restate.
Thank you. I'd rather, just like Mayor Robinson, I like to have them actually separate. Just it'll be clearer to the people, and that is my goal, to always be clear. As such, I'm going to present a substitute motion, which I know in my heart will be defeated. But I would like to have my colleagues go on record saying no to this. So, as such, my substitute motion is for us to adopt contributions limitation similar in nature to those of the City of Irvine's, whereby it caps contributions by individuals or corporations to a $300 maximum per person, per candidate, per election. Of course, it gets adjusted by the Consumer Price Index a couple of percentage points every year or every 2 years. That's my motion.
Okay, and just for clarification, that's the substitute motion. So we have the initial motion and the second to basically move forward
thank
with
you
no
both
direction
for
to
that
staff.
clarification, and that's completely consistent with the Brown Act description on number 19.
Okay. I'll give some time for a potential second to that substitute motion.
No need, Mayor Robinson. I know it's not going to go anywhere, so let's just take a vote.
Councilman Bass, do you have a comment?
Well, I would want to include as part of the substitute motion that let me just state that that review by the city attorney also include a review of the Supreme Court decision relative to campaign donations.
Great. I take that friendly amendment, absolutely. Thank you for seconding that. Yes, now we have a second.
Okay, so there's a motion and a second on the substitute motion. And this again, this is just to give direction
This
to
is
staff.
just to get information.
It's not to take an actual vote tonight
No.
on changing an ordinance or creating an ordinance or anything like
No,
that. So
just-
I will, council members, cast your vote on the substitute motion.
Come on.
And the substitute motion fails 2-3. And so now we'll take up the initial motion, which is basically to, I guess, provide no direction to staff and just let the issue die. So there's a motion and a second. Council members, cast your votes. And that motion passes 4-1 with Mayor Pro Tem Nick in opposition.
Get caught up here. Okay, agenda item 20, discussion of City of Irvine Ethics Code, Irvine Measure H, submitted by Deputy City Manager, Director of Management Services.
And do we have any public comments?
We do. Jim Gardner?
And do we want to go to the staff report? Is there any staff report?
Mr. Mayor, I was simply going to say again, the staff has nothing further to add at this juncture. It was put on the agenda by Mayor Pro Tem Adam Nick.
Thank you, sir.
Good evening once again. My name is Jim Gardner, Lake Forest. Pardon me for being in my my jacket, but it's getting so hot up there, I could feel it in the audience. Thank you once again, Mr. Nick, for bringing this important issue forward. Quite frankly, I think we have a good code. The code requires us to look at social and financial compromises to our principals, and it requires that we not merely look at the ethical behavior, but not giving the appearance, which is a much higher standard, of compromising our social and financial principles. So I think the code itself is a pretty good one. The problem is there's no enforcement. Ethical violations, in my opinion, happen all the time. Recently, Mrs. McCullough voted for the ordinance in the mobile homes. Dozens of people, her people, were here asking for some kinds of protection, but she's a friend of the Prothero family, and she voted in the way that they wanted her to vote. She could have recused herself, but she didn't. Is that illegal? Obviously not. Is that a violation of the ethical? No. Does it give the appearance? Gee, I certainly think so. Mayor Robinson, recently you took some money from CR&R, and then you voted on CR&R. You know, never mentioned that. Is that illegal? No. Is that unethical? No. Does it look a little stinky? Yeah, it does give the appearance. And that's our code. And I think our code is a very high code because it requires giving the appearance. Mr. Voigt, you had a guy work for your campaign contribution. You appointed him as a commissioner on one of our on our commissions where there were people far more qualified. Is that illegal? No. Is that unethical? No. Does that look a little stinky? Yeah, it looks a little stinky. So I think the code is perfectly good. I think the problem is there's no enforcement. Even if it were, forget looks bad, even if it were bad, there's nothing we can do about it. So I think the issue here is coming up with some teeth, which I would recommend being a fine, but obviously, you know, you have a lot more to do. I don't think the problem's in the code. I think the problem's in the enforcement. Irvine just requires a report. Well, that means nothing either. So you need something more than a report. If you're going to go down that road, and I think it's a road you should go down, then you want to come up with some teeth. Otherwise, don't waste people's time. Well, thank you very much for listening to me for the 5th time. I'll try not to speak this often in the future. Thank you.
Mayor Robinson. Hold on. Do we have any other public comment?
We've had no further requests.
Okay. I appreciate you want to make some comments. I'm just trying to give Mayor Pro Tem Nick the opportunity to speak first, since this was an issue that you brought up. I want to make sure that I do that. So,
Thank you, sir. Well, I effectively said a few minutes ago what I was about to say on this, I guess combining the two items. I'm trying. Go back, and I think Dr. Gardner has done a great job with his chronicle. 10 or 11 measures I have gone down on. I have lost 4-1. This is, most of it was prior, of course, to Mr. Bass's credit. Most of it was before Mr. Bass, when Mr. Herzog was here. I tried to bring transparency into this government. Lost on that. I tried to have the agendas posted for your viewing, not 72 or 96 hours ahead of time, 2 weeks ahead of time. I lost on that. I tried to make elected officials' calendar public when they met, not when they met with their nieces and nephews, when they met with a contractor to be, when they met with a supplier to be. I wanted you to know who we met with, and lost on that. I wanted a fresher reminder to these contractors to be, as I said earlier, what that was about. I lost on that. One of the 2-year commitment on the part of the city for both a dog park and a community garden. I lost on that. Wanted the community foundation, so that if somebody came and said, hey, I got $100, I want to donate, we would have a
Point of order. I think this is straying from the agendized topic item. I mean, some of it does, some of it isn't. And I think we're obligated to stick to the specific agenda item.
Well, I don't see the city attorney stopping me, so I don't know why my colleagues are stopping me.
well, in the interest of time and in appreciation for the audience who's willing to bear with us, I think it's probably best that we stick to the agenda item as it's stated.
Okay, that I can respect.
Okay.
But I was not out of order, Mr. Bass. If I were, I suspect the city attorney would have brought me back in line.
Sorry to interrupt. I think that he's probably referring to more of the order of the meeting led by me rather than from a legal perspective. So that's I don't mean to put words in your mouth, but I think that's the direction he's going.
All right. All in all, I have lost on a whole bunch of things. I'll continue. What else do you want me to do? I already made the motion here last time, like a few minutes ago. So why don't I just let you folks discuss it, and then we'll take it from there, I guess.
All right. In reviewing Measure H, I think it was called, which was an Irvine ordinance that was passed in 2008, something that I don't really see any problem with, to be honest with you. It's an ordinance that basically is more focused toward lobbying efforts and the fact that we shouldn't, as elected officials, get paid to lobby when we could have some undue influence. Clearly, we can't lobby in our own city. That's a direct violation of our own city code and ordinances. But I think this took it a step further and just said, in the county of Orange, and in the capacity that we have as council members, we're given the opportunity to serve on a number of boards representing the city, be it the toll roads, so the Transportation Corridor Agency, Orange County Transportation Authority, Orange County Fire Authority, a ton of other organizations, and there's relationships that are built with other council members and mayors from around Orange County, and as such, there's the potential for those relationships to benefit you in some way if you were lobbying in a paid capacity. As I understand this ordinance, and City Attorney, please correct me if I'm wrong, but this wouldn't impact your ability to lobby on behalf of your own business. So, as an example, with my business, if I was lobbying a city in Orange County for my own personal business, there wouldn't be a problem. If Mayor Pro Tem Nick was lobbying a county or a city with respect to his business, there wouldn't be a problem there. If Councilmember Voigt's in his position working with Assemblyman Don Wagner in his other career here, his day job, so to speak, he wouldn't be impacted by that, but we wouldn't be able to lobby in a professional capacity being paid. We wouldn't be able to lobby any cities or the county in Orange County, and that seems to make sense to me. It's something that I could support, and so I'll just, that concludes my comments for the moment.
I wouldn't have a problem with that, but if someone was a lobbyist before they took this position, there needs to be some type of provision for that. But I would like to go back to our original here. As far as the transparency and ethics, the state of California require, under the ethics code, for us to declare if we have had that kind of contact. And as far as the comment that was made by Gardner, no, I wasn't going to let that slide. I always believe that the truth will always wait over a lie or something that is attempting to be a lie. There is not many people in this state that are involved in anything in this state that has to do with mobile homes that do not know that I was instrumental and repeatedly 12 and a half years to get the state of California League of Cities to create the state mobile home task force. I get contacts and calls from all over the state representing that are representing mobile home the residents and the manufactured housing. And as far as the Prothero family, I've lived in this valley for 69 years, and I've been active ever since 2 weeks after I moved in. It's impossible for me not to know some families and some people when me and my children and my husband has been here since 1969. So I would have to make a list that would be longer than this city of all the people I do know. But one thing that you may not know, Jim, but many people in this city and surrounding areas and the county, the region, and the state is that I cannot be bought, just as my city can't be bought. And they know that I am a woman of integrity. When I have a contact, if you were here that night, I'm quite sure you heard me state I have known the Prothero family many years, including their parents. And one of the brothers and I was very close and instrumental in helping to get this city started. So I have never tried to hide any organization, group, or anything that I have ever been associated or affiliated with. The only time I try and hide is if someone is doing something wrong to my city, and you will hear it from me. The thing is in the state conflict of interest that we, meaning the people elected up here, and our staff have to take that class every 2 years, administered by BBK, our attorney firm, or you can take it on the league or online. You must, when it comes to the conflict of the conflict rules of this state, you must report contact if you're going to vote on something. It does not hold anything different. If you have accepted some money, you should declare it before you vote. But also, if you did not, you must put it on your 460 forms. And at the end of the year, your 700 forms. These are forms. 460s, we fill out too many that blessed times in a year, and I'm quite sure you remember that, Jim, because you've ran. And the 700 form we fill out once a year. So you can look on those and see what the person has and has not been. But now, if you wanted to take it where the people that are doing business with this city does a conflict list of whom they have supported, that is something that I probably would have supported. But there is already plenty of provisions in place. But like I said earlier, if somebody is not an ethical person, It doesn't matter what rules and regulations you put in, they're not going to keep them. Otherwise, we wouldn't need any prisons and any jails, and all the police could go and be priests or something. They wouldn't have to lock up anyone. So the thing is, when you make a statement, that statement need to be accurate, and you need to not imply that someone is doing something that they did not do. I declared before I voted and when I spoke that I have known the Prothero family for many, many years, including their mother. I was at her services, and the older brother, Ray, I was especially invited to them, and several. But also the other 3 mobile homes in our city, I have also helped them. And I've even helped some of the mobile homes throughout this state. Anybody that know me and know anything about mobile homes know that. So there's no favoritism there. Also, anybody that does business with this city knows that if they're a friend of mine, I cut off all communication with them if they apply for any jobs in here. And everybody up here, and that has been up here, does not do that. But any business that has ever did business with this city, that I was friends with any of them, they have no contact with me by phone, in person, or even if we're personal friends, by going lunchy, breakfasty, or dinner. That's a policy that I developed for myself before I even sit on this dais. So when you imply someone is doing something wrong, as you have repeatedly, we've had a couple of talks about this. I don't play baseball. Strike 1, strike 2, I don't need a strike 3. Strike 3, like I said, when you mischaracterize someone to try to imply that they're dishonest, they're crooked, they're not doing right by the city, that is a farce, and you should not do that. When you sow seeds of fear, you should not do that. So you need to back off, and if you love this city, stop trying to give people fear that everybody up here is dishonest, on the bribe, or going to take something or do something wrong, because everybody up here that is here now and has been here is not. There is things in place statewide to take care of these issues. We can tweak it, and I agree with the mayor. I don't have a problem with tweaking it, but don't try to imply that you want to tweak it because that level of dishonesty has taken place up here. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Before there are any other comments, I think that one other thing that would be of benefit for whoever's listening is that, the teeth, the enforcement is really found by the Fair Political Practices Commission, which is Sacramento-based. And there are council members, even in Orange County, just even within the last few months, who, have come under the review of FPPC for some of the things that we have recused ourselves for tonight. So being too close to something, voting on it, and having some personal gain that comes from that. So that's really where the teeth are. I don't think that the staff wants to play any party to enforcement of ordinances as they relate to us, as we are technically and literally their bosses, their managers. So, I think that that's best handled at the state level, and that's the opportunity for anyone when they feel like something is not right, that it's being done incorrectly, that there's some potential corruption or anything like that. You can always go to the FPPC and file your complaint, and they'll do their investigation, and they're going to investigate based on state law, and I would guess they might have something to do with ordinances as well, but so I'll open it up the rest of the way to the council for any further discussion. One quick question for the city attorney, though. Councilwoman McCullough mentioned trying to potentially pull out someone who was currently employed as a lobbyist who would be running. Would there be some legal issues with us keeping a professional lobbyist from essentially running for office? Like, you have to pick, you either run for city council and quit your job, or keep your job and not run for city council. Are there any legal issues with respect to that?
It's a good question. I think that, there is an associative right involved, but If the regulation in question specified that it was to prohibit self-dealing and articulated a good policy for its basis, then the person could run and then come into compliance with the ordinance if and when elected. So I think the ordinance could have, we'll look at that, but I think that it could have a solid basis if it were properly articulated. It relates to an important governmental interest.
Okay, and so with respect to that, I mean, to come into compliance with that, individual have to basically discontinue business?
I think from the swearing in, then yeah, you would have to.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Mayor, you're talking about bringing it back. As it stands now, just for our city, that would not affect a person that was lobbyist because they would just have to avoid our city. But if you do it for the whole county, then that could present a problem for their livelihood. That's why I asked.
Oh, I beg your pardon, Mayor and Council. If you wanted a grandfather clause so that it applied to new employment, it could also be written that way, yes.
Okay, because I don't know for sure, but because I haven't looked at everyone's 700 forms, but I don't think any of us currently are operating in a paid lobbyist position, so I don't think it affects anyone that's here.
Yeah,
but the question would be, whether or not we could provide that allowance for someone who, to run, because essentially you'd be saying, pick at least your current livelihood, or keep that, or run for city council. So, but we can continue with that discussion. So, any other comments?
I do have a question to ask Mayor Pro Tem Nick. When we were on the previous item, and you talked a little bit about ethics, you mentioned you had discussed that with both myself and I think this is what I heard, but I want to make sure, clarify that you had discussed that both with myself and with Mayor Robinson. Is that, did I misunderstand that?
No. I said we all promised to do right by the people of Lake Forest. No discussion, no one-to-one discussion. No, that was just a general promise that we're going to do right by these people, by our people, by us.
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure.
Thank you.
Okay. Well, if there's no further discussion.
Make a motion.
I was going to make one myself.
Please, go ahead.
So I would actually, I guess this is still providing direction, right? Yes. So it's providing direction to the staff. So, I would like the staff to, I would like to provide direction to the staff to bring back an ordinance that would preclude us from lobbying at the county level, and also in a professional capacity, and also have some consideration for individuals who might be previously employed as lobbyists prior to getting elected. I wouldn't want to keep an individual in town from being able to do that. So maybe we could look at the language and have that discussion when you do put together an ordinance. I want to try to make sure that anyone who lives in town that's of age and meets the general legal requirements could run for city council if they chose to. But they'd have to already be professionally employed in that way. If they weren't, they wouldn't be able to start a new career basically after they got elected, and now could start developing those relationships. So it's kind of wordy, but that's my motion at this point.
Mayor, could
I second that, and I would like to add to it, if I may. I guess
depending on what it is.
I guess
I'll let you know.
I guess they call them friendly amendment.
We'll see how friendly it is.
Can I? Okay, great. Everything that Mayor Robinson just said stands. I would like to supplement it by stating that this new code, or this new, this new ordinance, this new code, shall entail an amendment requiring supplementing and updating in between filings, campaign disclosures by potential contractors, and simultaneous public disclosure of any and all contributions to the council member in connection with the award of contracts. Basically, again, as I said a few minutes ago, if somebody gave money to any of us and we're giving them a contract, this ordinance will require that we tell you, the people of Lake Forest, that, hey, I'm giving this multi-million dollar contract to this provider, but I must tell you that I got money from them. And just like I explained a few minutes ago, that's my friendly amendment. And of course, with cross-references to our purchasing ordinance and purchasing policies. Again, it has to do with the award of contract. All in all I'm asking for is exactly what you said, except us having to state that we took money.
Okay.
Please.
I don't think that it really fits with this particular agenda.
Actually, it does. I've already checked with the attorney.
Well, in my opinion, I don't think it really fits with this agenda item, because that's talking more about campaign finance, which we just addressed, and this has more to do with the specific code that I was talking about.
Actually, Mayor Robinson, what I read word for word, has been furnished to me by the city attorney, literally, on this item. You can ask.
Okay. Well, I don't know whether that's accurate or not, but I don't.
Mr. Smith, will you comment on that, please?
City Attorney.
Yeah, Mayor and Council, there are two ideas on the floor. Whether you want them to be merged in your motion, Mayor, is up to you. I think the supplemental disclosure idea is okay for you to act on tonight under the Brown
Thank
Act.
you.
That description's, I think, broad enough
Thank
to
you.
include this. It's a bring-back item if the motion gets a second and passes, and so you'd have a chance to look at it and republish the notice in the future. But I think it does fit under the description, again, as a separate motion or as appended to your motion.
I
whichever.
seconded with a friendly amendment. Thank you.
Okay, so just clarify briefly what.
Reading word for word from a text provided to me by the city attorney, the friendly amendment to your motion, Mr. Robinson, is the new code shall entail an amendment requiring supplementing and updating campaign disclosures in between filings by potential contractors and public disclosure of any and all contributions at the time of awarding the contract to the contractor. Literally word for word, you want to see it?
No, it's all right.
Can I say all that means is that before we award the contract, we just have to say, so people wouldn't have to wait 6 months down the road to see the file, to see the report. They know right there that last night I was given money. That's all it says. This is just information, no harm.
And I guess I'd have to, something that I guess we could talk about. I'd have to try to figure out exactly what the implications would be of that. And so, I mean, who's creating the forms? Are they state forms? Are they city forms? Are they, all those sorts of things? I mean, I think we're talking, I might be wrong. You might have more information than I do, but I think we're talking about a theoretical problem rather than a literal one. I know that since the election, I don't think I've received a single contribution, and that's been over a year and a half. So I know it wouldn't apply to me. Based on your own philosophy about campaign finance, I don't think it would apply to you. I'm not sure really who it would apply to. I don't sift through the 460s, but so I think we're talking about a theoretical problem right now. So, I would rather have a discussion about that as an individual topic, because I don't know what support there is and isn't at this point. So at this point, I'm going to reject the amendment. Not that I'm in opposition to the concept, but that I'd rather separate the two at this point. And if you'd like to have a separate discussion about that particular issue at another time, I'd be fine with doing that. But I would like to separate it from this, because I just don't know. I don't feel comfortable with it at this point.
Hey, as much as I've lost, I get what I can, so sure.
Okay. So.
Mayor, can I have a clarity on your amendment, since you are now separated?
There is no amendment, so it's just.
I mean, your motion. On your motion, it's when we're talking about lobbying. most people think money,
But we're talking about professional. It's just money.
but you're just talking about professional, because, on the different committees I'm on, I have to lobby supervisors to support different things and stuff.
Yeah, but you're,
I don't get
I talked
paid.
about that. You're not getting
I'm a
paid
free
for
person.
anything,
Okay,
and you're
just making
representing the
sure.
city. You're not
Just
representing.
making sure before I cast my vote. I have to know
absolutely.
what I'm voting for.
Absolutely.
Just check it.
I
So now
appreciate that.
you have rejected the friendly amendment. We're back to the original motion that you made.
Correct.
And it's already been seconded, so I'm calling for the vote.
Okay. I'll just open. Any further discussion? Okay, then I'll call for the vote. That motion carries 5-0. Unanimous.
Agenda item 21, legislative and regulatory matters submitted by city manager.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. City Council, this agenda item contains a bill that actually was requested for consideration by Councilmember Bass. It's AB 1453, related to veterans cemeteries in Orange County. Staff has nothing further to add than what you see in this agenda item. I'd be glad to answer any questions that you might have.
Do we have any public comments on this item at all?
We've had no request to speak.
I'll bring it back to Councilmember Bass as he brought this up initially.
Well, it speaks for itself. I think it's important that we support the having of a veterans cemetery in Orange County. The site isn't specified in the bill. It's just the committee is to work on finding one. And with that, I'd move approval of our recommendation to support that bill.
Second.
There's a motion and a second.
I'd like to address it. In your motion, are you saying the Great Park, because we had this in entire discussion out of the Southern California Association of Government. It was brought up there and a couple other meetings that I've been at, and it's just I don't believe that in the bill itself it says the Great Park. I just believe that it says in Orange County.
That is correct.
Okay.
Yes.
If that's what you're saying,
Right.
I support
Just in
it.
Orange County.
Yeah, I support that.
Okay. There is a motion and a second, and
Call for the vote.
if there's no further discussion, then I'll call for the vote. Did he hit the button?
Yes.
Okay. I guess he was already supporting it,
Yes.
so it's not that he's not, there's a ghost voting here. I'll confirm when he gets back to the seat, just to make sure, but he just apparently stepped out for a second. I think he understood the substance of the motion before he stepped away. So, is there anything else to discuss
Yes.
with
Under
respect to item
legislation.
21? Okay.
Yes, under legislation, there's a move on counties, region, and state level for our cities to consider putting into their plans bike trails, taking and doing, getting your city ready for the bike trails that OTC, and also on the OTCA board to help mobility and get some of the carbs off the road. So I would like to, like for us to put that on the agenda. If Carlos can get some information about it. There's several city ordinance out there and motions and things out on all the levels, and maybe we could see one that's a fit for our city. And there is, and if you can kind of speed it up, because there is money on the regional level and some state funds coming in to help do it for the cities. Thank you.
Agenda item 22, request for appointment, League of California Cities, Association of California Cities, Orange County, and/or the Orange County City Selection Committee, submitted by city clerk.
No public comments?
There have been no requests to speak.
I didn't think so. I believe it's May 15th. The City Selection Committee I'll be representing is the mayor. There's a variety of positions that are open. As I recall, I think maybe yesterday has it been extended, or is it Thursday?
It's
Thursday?
The 7th, actually,
Okay.
tomorrow.
All right. Okay. So tomorrow's the deadline. So if there are some of these county positions that you're interested in, I encourage you to apply for them. I think it's good just to have representation on as many of these as possible, but I know that each of our time is pretty stressed between our business, personal, and family obligations and obligations we already have in our capacity. But if you do have those opportunities, I encourage you to do so, and I'll let my council members know you have my support if you decide to apply for any of these, because I think representation for the residents of Lake Forest would be very beneficial regardless of who's in that capacity. So,
Mayor, I'll be running for re-election on the Orange County Housing Authority.
okay.
Thank you.
Mayor Robinson?
Yes.
I'm not, at this point, running for any of the positions, but I understand that Sam Oliveto, the mayor of San Juan Capistrano, is running for the alternate position on the Local
Last
Agency Formation Commission, and I would encourage you to support him in that vote. I've known him long before I became on the council, and I respect him.
Absolutely. I think, without getting into it too far,
Yeah, right.
I think that some of the unincorporated areas that could potentially become incorporated, everything from Coto de Caza to Rancho Mission Viejo area and so forth, it would be good to have a representative from South Orange County. I think that, if I'm not mistaken, I think currently South Orange County doesn't have a representative since former Mayor Herzog stepped down from LAFCO. So I think that it's important that they're represented, specifically because a lot of the unincorporated growth is occurring in the South County, and we need to have that representation. So appreciate that.
Thank you.
Brings us to the city manager's report.
I have nothing further this evening, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
Councilman Bass.
Yes. First and foremost, I, along with my colleagues, attended the adoption of the Marine Law Enforcement Battalion. It was a tremendous and moving event, and I want to personally thank Jim Rosenberg and the committee that worked with him for their efforts in putting this together. I know it was a long process involving the federal budget and sequestration and all that kind of stuff, but Jim hung in there and did a marvelous job. Next, I did not pull item 17. I only wanted to make a comment on it, is that that the company that we awarded the contract was involved in, and I think helped along with the city in a 44% increase in businesses participating in the shop and dine in Lake Forest this past year over the prior year. And then next week, Tuesday, will be a special meeting. Council will be reviewing the budget for the city. My understanding it will be on the city's website sometime Thursday. And just sort of, we did get a copy as we got here. Just a quick glance through it. I see that there is, and it's great that we have substantial revenue coming in from all the new development that's coming in. It might be helpful, I don't know if there's time to get it for next Tuesday, but to at least have a very brief summary, maybe even one page, where you kind of strip out the one-time revenues and expenditures associated with that, and see where we are on what we will be on a sort of a real budget. I think the city is on tremendous financial footings. Won't be like some other cities that depended on the development occurring and then had some difficulty. But just do that, and with the park at a full year's operation. And with that, I'll conclude my comments.
Councilwoman McCullough?
Thank you. I think I did a brief one in our special meeting. Excuse me. Thank you. But I'd like to state that Pepino had their 30-year anniversary. They've been here in our city 30 years making pizzas, and they had it at the very first one. I had my little restaurant 2 doors over. Very nice family. The Medal of Valor, we had one of our officers receive the Medal of Valor, and very proudly, it always makes us proud when our officers show how good they are. Anytime someone has to criticize, go and look. See, they always getting things because they do good. And we had a ribbon cutting at a dental shop, which they probably going to have to go to the Planning Commission and get some more signage. We had quite a time trying to find them. Dave Bass and his wife and I, my husband, we drove around, walked around and everything. So hopefully they can get the Planning Commissioners to give them a little bit more signage down there, because they're back up in a hole that was, their GPS says they're here, but they were back up in a hole. So they're going to need a little extra signage. OTCA, Special Needs Access, I attended that meeting, and they came up with a new book, and they're going to be printing a new one every month or two, rather than printing one and let it go for a whole year, because they're changing a lot of things in it on a regular basis, and every time they get a new change, they're going to print another, so keep up. And it's a lot smaller, so they can afford to do it that way in city the way they were doing. They're tweaking the process for call-outs and no-shows on the special needs, and how they're going to handle the hearings when people do not show and they lose out. I'll give that information to Gary, because that comes under senior citizens. El Toro Water District was nice enough to host the I-5 widening for the 3 tracts of homes that are going to be impacted the most with that I-5 widening. They have given us great comfort. They took the originally they had said they were going to put in 2 off-ramps, an off-ramp and an on-ramp, and that was taken off the board, I guess, because I complained quite a bit. And but they are considering repairing some of the things that has been damaged from before, and also putting some greenery out there to try to help filter some of the emissions that's coming, that will be coming from the widening of the freeway. They will be leaving one area large enough to put another lane in, even though it will not be put into far in the future because of money restraints. Jim Sachs Award, it was real nice to see his wife to come up, and that for some of you that may not know, that's the reason we have a senior center. He wanted a senior center for the seniors, and Marcia was on at that time. I don't remember if I was on or not, and the 3 of us put our heads together, and Santiago Capistrello let us have our first senior center there, and then here, and hopefully the next time the senior center move, we'll be moving in our own building. So we have an award every year for seniors that do exceptional and do things for seniors. OCOG, we got a lot of things going. We got new officers, and we're involved in the arena reform, and so that is something that we're glad that we're up at the table with. And there will be arena reform meeting this next week. So OCOG is the Orange County Council of Government, and they work with SCAG, Southern California Association of Government. The Fire Authority, they have a lot of things going on, an awful lot of things going on. Much of it I can't share with you because there's closed session. We're in union negotiations, and so the only thing I can tell you is I'm having a lot of meetings for the fire authorities. Amigo Docents had a tea for the ones that are Amigo Docents. They have a tea every year. It's a big annual tea, and one of our founding families usually attend. The Olsen family, if you know, we have a street named Osterman. They came from all over, as far as Hawaii, and I got a chance to see some of the ones that I hadn't seen in a long time, and some that I hadn't got a chance to meet. The tea was exceptional, and it was packed out. It was more than ever before. Southern California Associate Government had their economic summit, and one of the things that I hear Dave Bass and others say is for cities not to plan on money that's one-time money, mainly development money, or if it's given by the government or something like that, because once it's gone, your city's going to be in a hole. So do your long-term planning, but don't count on that one-time funding. Use it for something that you only have to fund once. El Toro High School, Dave Bass and Mayor Robertson and Scott Voights and myself, we all had our families there, and it was wonderful, and they were so excited. I think I hugged, shook hands, and gave kisses on the cheek to at least over 100 people. Yeah, all of them. I was kissing everybody and hugging everybody, and so it was really fabulous. They are so excited to be adopted, and I can't wait. And for any women that want to get involved, we're going to have a team of women going down to the base and working with them. Jim did an exceptional job, a yeoman's job. He was superior in all that he did, and he made an excellent speech, made everybody feel real special, and they are still talking about it. Mental health, we have a lot of things going on in mental health, and South County is getting the Mental Health Wellness Center, but South County has some other things going on in mental health with mental health that we had forgotten that we're not getting some of the resources down here. There will be new resources, and there's new monies. I would like for our city attorney, I'm asking for our city attorney to bring our invocation ordinance back in place to meet with and be comfortable with the Superior Court ruling that just came out, and I need a second on that.
I'd be happy to second that.
Second.
Thank you. And thank you, Mayor, for the addition of time when I go away if needed.
Absolutely. Councilman Voights.
I first got to say that, in the 23 years of the City of Lake Forest, I don't think there's been a better event than the adoption ceremony for the Marine 1st Law Enforcement Battalion, Camp Pendleton. Jim, your committee and you did a marvelous job. I want to commend you as everybody up here. I think that all of us that were there were just floored by the precision and the professional attitude of those Marines, and what a privilege it was to see so many of them there, and how proud we as a city can be that we're lending our support to them. And so thank you. I do so much appreciate it. It was a great thing. I, too, attended the I-5 widening meeting down at the El Toro Water District. It was neat to see Laguna Hills, Mission Viejo, people coming to our city to find out what is actually going on there. So they did a good job there, and I think it calmed a lot of the fears that people were having about that. Rancho Days was this last weekend at Heritage Hill. I know that me and Mayor Robinson and our families walked around there exploring. They brought horses in that were doing dancing out there. My daughter loved it, but it was a great event. And I know Miss Kathy McCullough was there to buy her organic honey. And so and I want to thank you guys all. It's coming up that we're going to be losing our toll ability to pay cash, and so I remind everybody that if you haven't been to the TCA website, go there and sign up for Fast Track, and it's just going to be an account using your license plate. So thank you. Oh, with the new prayer ruling, that I'm sure that our city attorney and his firm will do a wonderful job in keeping us on track. But the fact is, we as a nation and we as city officials got blessed with the opportunity to have a new ordinance here in the City of Lake Forest. And so thank you for bringing that up, Ms. Kathy McCullough.
Mayor Pro Tem Nick.
I'll get to it because the text is exhaustive. Notwithstanding an intellectual disparity between and among some council members, here exists such a disparity between some of us as to our individual priorities or lack thereof that I, for one, find it impractical, if not impossible, to achieve a sense of commonality, a common sense of purpose. As a result, all I can do is to introduce resolutions and ordinances as I have up to now, and let my peers vote on the matter on the record, and let them fall on their own sword by the means of you voting him out of the office when the time comes. A 5-star general, one of our greatest presidents, Dwight David Eisenhower, said, "People who value their privileges above their principles will lose both." You see to it. As I promised people of Lake Forest that I would curtail and tighten, if not eliminate altogether, council members' ability to be reimbursed for personal expenses, I begin. As it is against the state laws for anyone to enter into a pre-debate of the matter at this point, I ask those council members who may see their way of life changing before their own eyes by what I am about to introduce to restrain themselves from taking shots at me, to refrain from unlawfully debating the matter at this point in time, and to allow for a debate in a public forum at a predetermined, pre-noticed time. With that prefaced, I am seeking consensus to agendize a reconsideration of and modification to the City Council travel and meals expense reimbursements policy, so that the staff knows exactly what to come back with. I will be specific. I shall be specific in the next couple of paragraphs. Specifically, to fix the amount of meal and incidental expenses reimbursement to the federal per diem rate as established and published annually by the U.S. government, namely the Department of General Services, notwithstanding, eliminate altogether the use of the in lieu receipts. Differently said, the actual receipts shall be required for reimbursement. Any and all exceptions must be approved in advance of payment to the council member, approved by the council. 2, establish guidelines for when overnight travel is permitted, such as how early before a conference or meeting the city will pay for someone to arrive. For instance, and this is a true example, this is actually not hyperbole. For instance, if a meeting begins at 10 a.m. in Ontario, not Ontario in Canada, 45 minutes away, Ontario, right here. For instance, if a meeting begins at 10 a.m. in Ontario, a Lake Forest Council member shall not be allowed to drive down and stay at a hotel the night before and order room service for breakfast the following morning, all at taxpayers' expense, as it has been the practice by certain individuals on the past and present councils. With all that said, staff having exact direction, detailed direction, I am now looking for someone to second me for a discussion of these points, and would like a policy brought back to the council at the first opportunity for discussion of these points at a time determined by the city manager, Mr. Dunnick. Thank you. I need a second.
Okay, you have a second from me for discussion
Thank you.
purposes, so.
Now, I have a second item real quickly. As far as cell towers, and I cannot speak any more quickly or I would have. Well, I could, you would not be able to pick up the accent. Cell tower. Based on the conversation with the chairman of the Planning Commission, I understand there have been a few occasional complaints made to the city about cell phone coverage. While I also understand that federal regulations are likely changing about the ability of local governments to regulate in this area, I would like to propose agendizing a future discussion by the City Council about this potential coverage condition and related issues. If my colleagues eventually agree with me, that we should investigate this matter to determine the extent to which problems exist and the ability of the city to address them, then I would envision that we refer the matter to the Planning Commission and staff for research and recommendations back to us. Thank you. I'm looking for a second.
Point of clarification, and I'm good with that, but we have, don't we have new cell towers going up in the city right now? I think that there's even some on Osterman, on Pittsford Drive, Lake Forest. Are those not cell towers?
Mr. Members of the Council, there are some, I guess, I'm not sure how you call it, there's street lights that are beefed up, and there are also cell towers at the same time, yes. And as Mayor Pro Tem Nick indicated, there is some activity at the federal level dealing with this. I believe what I heard him say was that he'd like to bring it back for conversation.
Yes, sir.
See what can be done.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. You have my support on that.
Thank you, sir.
You know, if we're using my Verizon phone in my neighborhood, I can't get reception. That's a good thing.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. Thank you, Mr. Robbins.
Absolutely. I've gone to a lot of the same things everyone else has. So, the event, the Marine Corps adoption on Saturday was quite impressive. We have a great group of young men and women that we've adopted, and I got a chance to talk to quite a few of them, come from all over the country, and it's clear that a fair number of them are pretty far from home. So it's going to be a great opportunity for the community. It's really the community. It's not the city. We don't want this to be city-driven. We want it to be community-driven to support these individuals in a variety of different ways. So I'm sure you'll see an article or a blog post or something and learn more about it. You'll probably see pictures if you didn't make it to the event, but there's going to be plenty of opportunities to connect. Really want to, again, thank Jim Rosenberg. He's probably been thanked plenty tonight, but thank him again and his entire committee. A lot of dedicated people. I can't even remember all the names, but I think Beverly Ford and Tom Cagley and a number of others were on that committee, and I'm sure they all put in countless hours trying to put that event together, and it was a great one. We had, on top of having the entire council there at different points during the day there, we also were honored to have State Senator Mimi Walters and Assemblyman Don Wagner, who both graciously provided certificates to the city in recognition of our involvement. So these will be somewhere here in City Hall. You can probably find a nook or cranny where they'll be hung. I'm sure we have quite a few of them, but just a couple more. And you know, it was again a great event. I was really pleased to be a part of it. So thank you for sticking around tonight. Fortunately, we got out of here before 10 o'clock and adjourned the meeting.